Coming in at number 5, we have Anita Jani. Born in Singapore, Anita moved to Hong Kong just at the age of 2. Living most of her life in Hong Kong, she worked in the corporate field when she became an adult. Diagnosed with lymphoma in 2002, Jani was losing her cancer battle, withering down to just 85 pounds. While battling tumours from the base of her skull to her abdomen, in February of 2006, after 4 strange years with cancer, her body finally gave up as she slipped into a coma. While in this coma, she said that she died and crossed over to an afterlife, stating, "I felt as though I was above my body. It felt like I had a 360-degree peripheral vision of the whole area around, but not just in the room where my body was in, but beyond the room." According to Jani, while in the afterlife, she reunited with her late father, who told her to turn back. Apparently, Anita recalled him saying that she had gone so far as she can, and if she went any further, she won't be able to turn back. But to Anita, this was a tough choice, as in the afterlife, she didn't want to turn back for how beautiful it was. She describes it as just incredible, because for the first time, all her pain and suffering had vanished, and all her discomfort had gone. All her fear was gone, as she felt as if she was surrounded by this feeling of unconditional love. Anita also expressed that in the afterlife, she was aware of other beings around her, though she didn't recognize them, but knew they loved her very much and were protecting her. She realized that they had been with her all this time, surrounding her with love even when she wasn't conscious of it. She spent 4 days in the hospital, where doctors were certain she wouldn't wake up from the coma. Anita's family were told to say their goodbyes. At a certain point, she had to make a choice of either staying in the afterworld or returning to her body. First, she was unsure, as she did not want to return to her weak, cancer-filled body, but a deep certainty overcame her that she would heal from her illness and that her work on Earth had only just begun. Therefore, Anita chose to return to her body and heal from cancer within a few weeks of waking up. In at number 4, we have Ronald Reagan. No, not the President Ronald Reagan. This Ronald lives in Tennessee in Blount County. In 1972, Ronald was associated with the wrong crowd, as he was a drug addict and a criminal. Coming from a failed marriage with no relationship with his children, he was not the most admirable human. While out at night, Ronald got caught up in a street fight and ended up getting severely hurt after being attacked with broken glass. Reagan was rushed to the hospital, and while he was there, he recalled actually seeing hell while he was clinically dead. When the accident happened, he recollects being taken on a gurney, but was floating away from his body rather than staying in it. As he was floating, he began to hear screams of people all around him, crying and wailing. This lasted while he was in the ambulance, as Ronald remembers feeling his body float above the gurney, even though he knew his actual physical body was still on the gurney. Furthermore, he felt as if he was passing through the open mouth of an active volcano or turning lake. While Ronald was moving through his near-death experience, he saw the faces of people who knew had passed away, and they told him, "Ronnie, don't come here, there's no escape." As I kept hearing these voices, the smoke opened up. He could see what looked like the old quarry pit that we used to swim in when he was a child. In fact, Reagan described it as looking exactly as if someone would pour gasoline on the water and set it on fire. It was burning and blazing all around him, and he was getting nearer and nearer to that pit. He could see people in the pit, and they were burning. Their arms, their faces, and their bodies were blazing. The fire was not going out, and they were screaming his name. Closer and closer he went until he could see the individuals. 2 people that he recognized were 2 brothers, Billy and Freddie, who Ronald grew up with. The 2 brothers passed 20 years earlier while driving impaired on the highway. Billy and Freddie screamed out to Ronald and said, "Don't come here, there's no way out. It's horrible, don't come here." After hearing these familiar voices warn him where he is going, his body jerked as if he was being electrocuted. Ronald woke up in the hospital 48 hours after the initial accident. He woke up to his wife sitting beside his hospital bed and having hundreds of stitches in his body, though his stitches were the least of his concern, as he was haunted by the horror and terror of what he had just seen and heard. Coming in at number 3, we have Pam Reynolds. During the summer of 1991 in the state of Virginia, American singer-songwriter Pamela Reynolds Lowry was in the city of Virginia Beach promoting her new record when she suddenly forgot how to speak. Pam describes it as a feeling and inexplicably forgetting how to talk. Soon after the incident, Pam visited a doctor and explained that she was suffering from dizziness, loss of speech, and difficulty moving parts of her body. The doctor referred her to a neurologist who found a large aneurysm on her brain that was at risk of rupturing. Because of the position of the aneurysm, the doctors predicted that if Pam had surgery, she wouldn't survive. As a last resort, Dr. Robert F. Spetzler offered to perform a rare procedure known as hypothermic cardiac arrest on Pam, which was a more successful looking operation for her rare case. The surgery involved lowering her body temperature to 10 degrees, taping her eyes shut, and placing small earplugs with speakers in her ears. These speakers would emit clicks that would check her brain function before the surgery went ahead. While she was under, her breathing and heartbeat would stop while they drained the blood from her brain. The procedure was a success and they removed the aneurysm. Pam fully recovered. But after the surgery, she was able to accurately recall the entire event. Pam explained that once they began operating, she popped up out of the top of her head and recalled lying on the gurney and hearing noises. Then she explained that there were 20 surgeons in the operating theatre and described the shape of the saw they used to cut her head open. She recalled hearing conversations that the doctors and nurses had in the operating room. As they continued to lower her body temperature, Pam noticed a tunnel and a bright light. This would be the start of her near-death experience. During her near-death experience, Pam saw and spoke to her dead grandmother and uncle. She told her uncle that she didn't want to enter her body again as it looked like a train wreck, though he insisted she return and even physically pushed her away from the bright tunnel. For years afterward, Pam thought she was hallucinating during the operation, but she decided to tell Dr. Michael Salem what happened to see if there could be any possibility that what she saw and heard actually happened. He looked into her surgery records and sent her the recordings from the surgery, and to everyone's surprise, even the doctors, the surgery recording was exactly how Pam described them to be. In at number 2 we have David Ditchfield. In 2009 near Cambridge, England, David Ditchfield was saying goodbye to a friend at the local train station. David stepped onto the train to help his friend with her luggage and to hug her goodbye, but as David was stepping off the train, his long trench coat got stuck in the train's closing doors. Unable to release himself from the coat, he found himself trapped as the train started moving. David was pulled along the platform as the train began gathering speed. He was being dragged around like a doll until he was sucked into the gap between the train and the platform, ending up on the track with the train hurling above him. To maximize his chances of survival, David pushed himself as far down onto the track as he could. The final carriage of the train passed over him, and he felt a surge of joy that he had survived, although now he felt intense pain. He noticed that the left sleeve of his coat had been ripped to shreds and that his arm was missing from the elbow down. During the moment, David felt as if everything unfolded in a slow, dreamlike way as he felt an absolute sense of calmness. David was rushed to the hospital by paramedics with life-threatening injuries. Shortly after arriving at the hospital, he lost consciousness and suddenly found himself in a completely different environment, surrounded by darkness that seemed warm and soft, with vivid colours and lights around him. He felt no pain anymore and he felt very euphoric. Ditchfield described his near-death experience as seeing pulsating colours like little orbs, much brighter and sharper than any colours I'd seen in normal life. Watching them was really relaxing and therapeutic. Ditchfield felt an overarching sense of support and beauty. At this point, David felt certain that he was dead, but he didn't feel any fear or regret. Then suddenly he was back in the hospital with an overdrive of noise and light, with people and frantic noises around him as he was brought back from his near-death experience. And finally, in at number 1 we have Adam Tapp. Adam Tapp was 35 years old and worked as a paramedic in London, Ontario. While doing some woodworking in his shop on February 28, 2018, he had an accident and was electrocuted. His heart would then be stopped for 11.5 minutes. While recalling the accident, Adam states that at the time, all of his senses were overwhelmed by 12,000 watts of electricity. He was certain it was the most painful thing he had ever experienced. Luckily, he was not alone and his wife called 911, though Adam didn't wake up until 6 hours later in the ICU. While being in a coma for over 6 hours, Adam said he had a profound experience. He stated that he woke up in a place he had always been. It was black and it resembled space. Then he felt a frequency wash over him and saw what looked like geometric shapes and patterns, adding that something was communicating with him through thoughts and feelings and emotions. He remembers the feeling of fading into the fabric of the universe. It was so warm and peaceful and pleasant. Though Tapp eventually woke up from his coma, when he woke up he felt uncomfortable in his body again and hyper-aware of having to breathe again. What Adam learned from his experience was the feeling that death is supposed to happen. Even if it's unwanted, it's a necessary part of life. life.
Number 5 on this list is the Black Forest. The Black Forest is located in Germany and would be the perfect hiding spot for the devil if he was to camp out in the woods. Trip Savvy writes, when the Romans arrived in these woods, they were spooked by its impenetrable darkness and named it the Black Forest. In German, this place is known as the Schwarzwald and has developed a fairy tale persona for its iconic cuckoo clock, world famous spas, and numerous monasteries, castles, and ruins. Legend holds that it is haunted by werewolves, witches, and even the devil. The tale of Der Grossman is that of a tall, horribly disfigured man with bulging eyes and many arms. Bad children who entered the forest were made to confess their sins to him, and the worst children were never found again. Or consider a grim original. The story of Die Gensmecht tells of a princess on her way to meet the prince in a faraway kingdom. But the maid accompanying her had ill intentions and forced the young princess to trade places with her. The maid took her magical steed, a talking horse called Falada, and when they arrived at the castle, the false princess had Falada killed to hide her misdeed, and the real princess work as a goose girl. The real princess has Falada's skull hung over the city's gate, earning the attention of the king. She tells her story and he punishes the false princess by rolling her around the city in a spiked barrel until she died. Those are a bunch of legends that pertain to this forest, but the most common one that isn't even mentioned there is the Headless Horseman. People have often spotted a Headless Horseman racing around these woods, and some people have said that he's even kidnapped individuals before. This forest is almost completely without light as well. Like, it's just dark all the time, and even if the sun is totally out, shadows will cover this whole place, making it very difficult to see. This place is teeming with evil energy. They knew it back then when the Romans came into this place. They knew it when the Brothers Grimm made stories about this place. And the locals still know it now. The Black Forest in Germany is a prime spot where the devil could be hiding, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is. Number 4 on this list is the Pine Barrens. Now, this forest might not be home to the devil that you're thinking of, but it is certainly home to a devil. CN Traveler writes, the heavily forested Pine Barrens spans over 1 million acres and 7 counties in New Jersey. The area thrived during the colonial era, host to sawmills, paper mills, and other industries. People eventually abandoned the mills in surrounding villages when coal was discovered to the west in Pennsylvania, leaving behind ghost towns and some say a very supernatural wanderer. The most popular Pine Barrens resident is without a doubt the Jersey Devil. According to legend, the creature was born in 1735 to Deborah Leeds, her 13th child, with leathery wings, a goat's head, and hooves. It flew up the Leeds chimney and into the Barrens, and it's been killing livestock and creeping out South Jersey residents ever since. The Jersey Devil is one of the most famous urban legends in the world. Now, this isn't the actual devil. We aren't talking about Satan here who rules over the underworld, but still, this is a very menacing creature that you would not want to run into. We also know for a fact that this creature is, in fact, living out in these haunted woods. Artists' renditions of this creature have it looking like half horse, half bird, half demon. Also, just because it eats livestock doesn't mean that it won't take a bite out of a human either. This is a forest that should be avoided at all costs. Number 3 on this list is the Pokiani Forest. The Pokiani Forest is located in Latvia and needs to be thought of as a potential hiding spot for the devil. The reason is there might be a secret hidden portal to hell right there. CN Traveler says there's nothing particularly strange about Pokiani Forest at first glance until you notice the mysterious heaps of moss-covered rocks. These piles are strewn randomly throughout the forest, causing much speculation and folktales among visitors. Some claim that the forest is an old site for pagan rituals and it now has the mystic ability to heal people. Visitors even bring offerings to the stones to enhance their powers. Other visitors, though, attribute more sinister qualities to the forest, believing it to be a gateway to a parallel universe. There are reports of people suffering and even dying shortly after leaving the woods, and locals warn that stealing a rock will end in a stint of bad luck. It's that parallel universe and the rituals that interest me here. I think that there's actually a lot more going on at this forest than meets the eye. That having this be an innocent, normal collection of trees is what some people want you to think. I was reading up on this and it seems that there could have been a lot of satanic rituals performed here back in the day. Is it possible that maybe one of those rituals actually worked? That they were able to open a portal to hell and release Satan? and now the devil uses this forest as a way to travel between the two worlds? I'd ask you guys to go check it out for yourself, but that probably wouldn't be the safest, so we may never know. Number 2 on this list is the Yawata no Yabushiraza forest. That is one heck of a mouthful, so from here on out, we're going to call this forest YNY. YNY is located in Japan and is apparently one of the country's most haunted spots. That's a pretty big title to hold because Japan is full of haunted locations and scary sights. This forest is particularly bad though because entering it could mean the end of your life. There is an extensive history with this forest and people disappearing. For some reason, when people go into this forest, they don't often come out. It's thought that their souls get spirited away to a faraway land. Now let's think about this for a second. Why or how could something like this be happening? Well, maybe the devil is chilling out in these woods and those souls are actually getting spirited straight down to hell. No one's been able to think of a logical explanation behind the disappearances, but the devil seems to make the most sense to me. This is a deep and lush forest, perfect for hiding, and whenever anyone comes in here, the devil just takes him away. I hope it's not true, but it very well could be. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Hoia Bachu forest. The Hoia Bachu forest is on everybody's list of the most haunted places in the world and therefore would be a great spot for the devil to be hiding out. My Best Places says the Hoia Bachu forest is often referred to as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania as it's said to be inhabited by the devil in person, by ghosts and perhaps even aliens. The forest gained notoriety around the 1960s when biologist Alexandru Sift photographed a flying object in the sky above the forest. After this incident, other inexplicable events soon followed, including the disappearance of a shepherd and his 200 sheep, which were never found again, and the disappearance of a 5-year-old girl who later reappeared 5 years later wearing the same clothes and without having aged even one day. A woman also disappeared after a long time with a 15th century coin in his pocket, and the case of a missing woman having reappeared in the forest with a 15th century coin in her pocket. There have also been many first-hand reports from people who have entered the forest only to come out with burns, severe rashes, headaches, and high fever, which they didn't have before. Some studies have revealed higher than usual radioactivity produced by natural uranium present in the subsoil. Pretty much everything imaginable has happened in this forest. There have even been reports of a literal UFO landing here several decades ago, guys. This place might have the most paranormal activity concentrated into one spot in the whole planet. So let's ask ourselves, why would a random forest in Romania have all this paranormal energy? Well, maybe it's because the freaking devil's there. Maybe the devil is in this forest and it's attracted all this other stuff to stop anyone from finding him. To my knowledge, there haven't been any major wars in this forest or anything like that, so it's not like a major tragedy is drawing these ghosts and demons here. I think most likely scenario is that it's the devil. Number 5 on this list is the purple golf cart. Never would I have thought that a purple golf cart would be so scary, but in this case, it absolutely is. Jeremy is a 31-year-old man who just over a decade ago lost his father. On the day that his father died, though, he received a crazy message, one that haunts him to this day. It was early in the morning and Jeremy was on his way to work. His phone rang. It was an unknown caller. Jeremy picked it up anyways. He said hello, but at first the line was flat. He could tell that somebody was on the other end, but they didn't say anything back at all. He said hello again and nothing. Just as he was about to hang up, a muffled voice that sounded very similar to his father's spoke up. His father's voice was soft and there was something wrong. It almost felt as if his father was being forced to speak. He told Jeremy to beware the purple golf cart and that if he saw it, it meant that he was going to go straight to hell. Then, before Jeremy could ask any questions, a loud, maniacal laugh was heard over the receiver and the phone hung up. Obviously, he was pretty freaked out at this point, so he quickly dialed up his dad. No answer though. Then he called his mom. When she picked up, she was in tears. She told him that she was just about to call him and that his father had just passed away. He was out on the golf course driving around a purple golf cart and the cart's brakes stopped working and he accidentally drove straight over a cliff. From that day forward, Jeremy is a full believer in the devil and in hell. He's told this story many times and thinks that when he received that unknown phone call, it was actually his dad calling him from hell. The devil was forcing him to call his son, and that maniacal laugh at the end of the call was the devil himself cackling at the entire situation. Jeremy hasn't come within a golf course ever since that call and refuses to. Golf carts, or frankly anything golf related, is strictly off limits for him because he believes if he sets foot inside or even sees a purple golf cart, that could be the end of him. And honestly, I know being scared of a purple golf cart sounds kind of ridiculous, but if I had got that phone call, then I'd be feeling the exact same way. Number 4 on this list is the Afterlife Texts. Jani Garther remembers February 18th, 2015 like it was yesterday. That was the day her mother died. She got a phone call from her father that her mother had been in a car accident and she was killed. Obviously, she was extremely distraught, but she became even more so when she received some text messages later that day. Hours after her mother was confirmed dead, she got some text messages from her mother's phone number. They read, "I have her now. She is burning. Her screams are comforting. Come scream with her, Joni." Yeah. Pretty unsettling, especially when this is coming from your dead mother's phone. They checked her mother's phone and nothing was there, no record of these messages at all. The police investigated, but they couldn't find anything significant either. Joni has never been able to get over those messages and they've haunted her for a long time. She's pretty sure that it was the devil messaging her and that her mother was with him. Number 3 on this list is the exorcism. Stephen Rossetti is a priest and psychologist and is a well-respected member in the community, having appeared on many talk shows before. He's well known for performing an absolute boatload of exorcisms. Like, this dude knows how to exorcise a demon. In fact, Stephen performs roughly 20 exorcisms per week, and he has a literal whole crew that travels with him to help him do this. We're talking about the Drake of exorcist people here. Because he's so well known in this exorcist community, it's fair to assume that the demonic community, if there even is one of those, knows about him well and probably isn't too fond of him. Well, that has certainly been made abundantly clear, especially from the text messages that he received from potentially the devil. In one of his more recent exorcisms where he dealt with a teenage girl, the family of this girl, and him included, got some super scary and very threatening messages. The messages read, "Her torments start now, priests, all night. While you and that friend of yours sleep, we will make her bleed. We will make her blood." Yeah, so that's a big no-no from me, and definitely not the type of message I'd be wanting to receive. They aren't even done yet though, because then they go on to say, "We're glad she's away from you now." The weirdest part about this is that the messages came from that girl's phone, but when they looked on her phone to see, sure enough, the messages couldn't be found. Rossetti is pretty convinced that these messages were the work of the devil, or at the very least, a high-ranking demon. Clearly, this girl is of some value to the devil in some capacity, and her soul has got to be harvested for some evil purpose. Stephen Rossetti took these messages from the devil super seriously and basically made it his mission to get this demon out. To my understanding, he did succeed, but I wouldn't be shocked if the devil came knocking again. Number 2 on this list is the Mercedes. This story is from a Reddit user when he was 20 years old, when he had what he describes to be the scariest encounter of his life with potentially the devil. Our protagonist decided to skip work this particular day and hang out with his girlfriend. They start their day off by heading to a bar and getting a drink. I must say, so far I'm pretty jealous of this guy. Anyways, when they arrive at the bar, it's empty. After a few minutes though, something super weird happens. A man, dressed very proper in a black suit, looking like a very serious fellow, enters the bar and then decides to sit directly between the pair of them. Yeah. Pretty creepy considering the entire place is empty. So now they're separated by this dude, but before they say anything at all, the man starts running his fingers on the table. He does this in a way that hypnotizes both our guy and his girlfriend. Then this weird guy says, "I notice you're a man who pays attention to detail. I'm also a man who pays attention to detail." Our guy snaps out of his trance and then notices that this dude sitting between them has piercing gray eyes, long fingernails, and keeps licking his lips. At this point, he tells his girlfriend to go to the washroom. She does so immediately, also sensing sensing that something might not be right. Right as his girlfriend leaves, the man turns to him and says, "You were supposed to go fishing today. If you had, I would have drowned you in that ocean. We've been watching you." At that moment, apparently the man then uttered some guttural shriek-like language that didn't make any sense. Our protagonist got up to leave at this point, but before he could, the man grabbed him and said that the next time you see me, I'll be in a black Mercedes and the license plate will say Utopia. To this day, he is deathly scared of Mercedes cars and even looking at the license plate of any vehicle, swearing that he saw the devil that day back in the bar. And finally, number 1 on this list is the bus rider. A young girl named Victoria was just trying to get home one evening when she believed she was confronted by the devil. She just finished working a long shift at her restaurant and was waiting for the bus. She got on and moved to the back. At the back of the bus, though, there was a very strange looking man. He was muttering to himself and acting rather crazy. Now, this isn't completely uncommon on public transit. I feel like we've all been on a bus with a crazy dude before, but this was a little different. His mannerisms didn't look human, and the words he was saying, they didn't make any sense. Then, all of a sudden, he started screaming and the lights on the bus flickered. The bus pulled to the side of the road and Victoria and the few other people on board quickly got off, but so did this man. Right as the bus pulled off, luckily another bus on the same route was only a stop behind. It pulled up and everybody got on, but Victoria was too late. The bus was trying to trap the crazy man out, but in the process also trapped out her. Now it was just her, this man, and the other bus driver on the original bus late at night on the side of the road. She then tried to make a beeline for the other original bus, but the crazy man stepped in front of her. He grabbed both of her arms and his eyes rolled to the back of his head. She was squirming and trying to break free, but she couldn't. Then his mouth opened far wider than it ever should be able to, and inside his mouth she saw the face of the devil. It said to her, "Eat my blood, Victoria. Your flesh will be succulent milk." She screamed in terror, and right as she did so, the original bus driver came to her rescue and smacked the crazy man across the head. The pair ran onto the original bus and drove away. After that evening, she never took the bus again and constantly lives in fear of the devilish bus rider.